and welcome to Mondays with Mindi. It's a weekly show at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific, where we talk about all things LinkedIn pipeline, promo, and profiles, what I like to call the 3 Ps of LinkedIn. So if you have questions about today's topic that you want answered, whether or not you're watching the replay or you're watching this live, go ahead and leave them below this post, and I will address them afterwards. I usually like to go back through the comments and end up having a good number of discussions with people watching the replay and having additional questions and thoughts. So add your questions there. I invite you to do that. You can also message me if that's a little easier. But let's get to today's topic, which is how do you build your LinkedIn network the right way? Okay, there is a right way, there is a wrong way. So getting connections on LinkedIn is very, very different from other social channels where you're simply trying to get followers. So let me be clear, connections are not followers. I will say that one more time. LinkedIn connections are not followers. Connections are people you have intentionally chosen to add to your network because there's an obvious mutual benefit for the two of you to be connected professionally. So think about it as, okay, you're somebody that's in the same space. You're a person I want to do business with. Maybe we should collaborate. Maybe you're somebody I want to hire. Maybe you're a prospect, but there's obviously a reason to connect. So if there's not an obvious reason to connect, you shouldn't be connected to the person. Okay, pretty simple. So followers can still happen on LinkedIn, but I like to treat them a little differently than connections. They're a little further removed. They're not quite that hubbub, let's have a conversation, let's get into the DMs and go back and forth in an exchange. They're a little bit more distant, pretty similar to followers on other social channels. So when it comes to LinkedIn, should you just sit there and wait for the right connections to ask you to connect? Or does it help to be a bit more on the proactive side? So here's what could happen if you just let your LinkedIn network happen to you. So I've seen a lot of people end up on the receiving end of a bunch of LinkedIn connections from people you don't care to know or are just trying to pitch you something. And it feels kind of icky. It's like, why don't I ever get connection invitations from people that are actually interesting, actually cool, actually could help me grow my business? Or maybe your network turns into a big following. So you have a lot of followers, you have a lot of connections, but there isn't that strategic element to it. So it's never going to be a good prospecting or business collaboration tool for you. Or maybe you never quite hit that 500 plus connections mark, which means the people you want to reach are a bit leery in accepting a connection from you or reaching out to connect with you. Or you could just have a solid LinkedIn network that lies untouched while you leave big money on the table because you don't know how to proactively engage with the right people there or how to add the right people to that network that you've built. So let's figure out how to get your network growing consistently. Today, we're going to talk about a few of my favorite connection formulas, some tips about how to find the right people to reach out to, and a simple way you can keep in touch with your new connections. And the best part, it doesn't have to take a ton of time to do. A lot of people think they need to spend an hour or two a day on LinkedIn to make it work for them. That is not the case. If you do this strategically, it won't take too much time. So aloha, for those who don't know me, my name is Mindi Rosser. I'm the founder of Mindi Rosser Marketing, and I have a signature pipeline building program called LinkedIn for Business, and it's launching again in June, so just a few short weeks. It's for B2B entrepreneurs, subject matter experts, authors, and savvy salespeople. So I help business leaders and experts like you build your LinkedIn networks, scale your impact, and fill your sales pipelines with perfect prospects. In this live, we are going to talk about why not growing your LinkedIn network consistently and strategically, why that's causing you to leave a good amount of business revenue on the table, and how you can grow your LinkedIn connections by 200 over the next month. And I'm serious about that number. It really can happen. So too many people join or start actually using LinkedIn thinking there's a shortcut, an automation that can build their LinkedIn network on autopilot. They can either find a tool for $49 a month or hire someone for a few $100s a month who promises to grow their LinkedIn network by a few thousand. No problem. Got it covered. This freelancer will simply run a LinkedIn search and mass blast connection request. Little do you know, this is the fastest way to damage your personal brand for good on LinkedIn. So this is very difficult to get trust back once it's gone. Once you've sent that spammy connection invitation, trying to earn it back and not come across as a spammer is very difficult. Once you're labeled as a spammer on LinkedIn, many people will write you off for a very, very long time. So the thing about LinkedIn messaging, about sending connection invitations, is that once that connection invitation is accepted, it never goes away. It's not like email. So you can't just send a connection invitation and send a bunch of spammy messages after that and expect no consequences, because that person is going to see that connection invitation and all that list of messages forever. So be thoughtful about what you send, what you say. Every single message matters. Anytime you send a new message to someone in the future, they will see that stream of messages that were sent previously. Okay? So very, very important to pay attention to what you're sending and what you're saying in LinkedIn. And recently, LinkedIn instituted a new policy that limits the number of LinkedIn connection invitations that you can send in a week. So now it's only 100. Before, people could get away with sending about that many in a day. Oftentimes, people were sending hundreds. I've heard people say they've sent more than 1,000 connection invitations within the span of 1 week. That's an awful lot of connection invitations. And obviously, there's some help with automation or a number of virtual assistants sending connection invitations on behalf of the person. So that's not happening now. All of these fancy LinkedIn automation tools that are blacklisted by LinkedIn, in case you didn't know, they're no longer able to trick the algorithm into sending a bazillion connection invitations. So the playing field is even. Everyone gets 100 per week, no more. Even if you have Sales Navigator, even if you have a paid LinkedIn account, you still only get that 100 per week. So I'm hopeful that we'll start seeing fewer spammy invitations, and maybe they'll disappear altogether. One can hope, and this is great news for all of us, especially those who really want to do LinkedIn the right way. Okay, so when you treat your LinkedIn connection network like your most prized professional networking, engagement, and growth tool, its value exponentially increases. Okay, so I like to think of LinkedIn and my network there as an asset to my business, because it is. The people that are inside of my network are people that I want to be connected with, that I trust, people that I've communicated with over time, people I've collaborated with, people I might want to do business with or refer business to down the road. It is very, very valuable to me. If that up and disappeared, I'd be very sad, because that's where I keep a lot of my communication and a lot of my networking activity. So instead of treating LinkedIn like every other network, where you're simply looking at the number of followers and kind of hoping that they're the right people, your LinkedIn network can be your go-to resource for every people aspect of your business, if you treat it well. So for instance, you need a great designer? Look up Amy on LinkedIn. Ready to prospect? It's time to use Sales Navigator and start developing relationships with decision makers. Are you looking to hire a new team member? Post on LinkedIn and you'll probably see a flood of resumes come in. So whether or not you're actively trying to find a new job, launch a product, promote your upcoming book, reach out to your perfect prospects, you should always be connecting. I like to say ABC. I know they say it, always be closing for sales, but on LinkedIn, ABC stands for always be connecting all the time. Anytime that you come across somebody interesting in the professional space, you should send a connection invitation. So when you keep your LinkedIn network growing with the right people, you will have just the right ratios of professionals in your network. So your network is almost like career or business insurance. If anything goes south with what you're doing now, with a gig, with a client, with your business, with a career, you've got a number of great relationships already established on LinkedIn, so you don't have to worry. So how do we go about building a LinkedIn network fast and in the right way? Because you can do both simultaneously. So let's start by talking about who should be in your LinkedIn network. All right, so this is about the who. So think about your LinkedIn network right now and who's in your network. Is it filled with colleagues that you've worked with in the past? Are there recruiters you've got connected with in order to land a job? What about some prospects you reached out to ages ago? Maybe there's some business colleagues you'd like to collaborate with. Think about that ratio right now. What types of people do you have in your LinkedIn network currently? Are there any specific groups missing? or in poor supply, people that you would like more of? If so, these are a great place to start in getting those first 200 connections. Think about where you want to grow your LinkedIn network. A lot of people don't think about that. They don't think about, okay, what types of people do I actually want in here? They just want the numbers. Like, okay, I need more prospects. Okay, let me just go find some prospects and run a search and hope for the best. Instead, add a little bit more thought to the types of people. Some of you don't want to prospect right now. Some of you are more focused on growing that network and really building those relationships with other peers and colleagues. So think about where you are right now and where you think you should start. If you're trying to grow your network fast, you might want to focus first on people whom you either already know on other social media channels or that are in professional associations or other online groups that you are in. If people are already familiar with your name or share common interests, they're more likely to accept your connection invitation. So that's something that I would consider if you are trying to grow fast, is not just going for prospecting. Some people try to jump straight to prospecting, and that's actually a very tough nut to crack if you don't do it right. So just prospecting as your outbound approach to growing your LinkedIn network can be a bit tricky. I would start with people who are a little more warm, like a warmer audience, than cold prospects. So here's an example of how I apply this for myself, actually what I am doing right now. I recently joined a course called Digital Course Academy by Amy Porterfield. Amazing course, by the way. And I noticed a number of people in that community whom I felt would be a great addition to my LinkedIn network for a variety of reasons. So I began reaching out to them and started having a huge number of one-to-one conversations in my LinkedIn DMs as a result. And why is this? It's because we shared a common interest and had something we could immediately talk about that was not related to, I want to sell you something. Okay, very boring, very dry, right? So is there a group or community that you're an active member of where you could start connecting with people who also might be on LinkedIn? Think about it for a moment. Most of you are a part of an association, a community, a group, some place where people are gathering that you know, that you share an interest with, that you could reach out to. The one word of caution here, though, don't be spammy in how you approach people. Because if you do, it will turn people off and you'll get labeled a spammer. So you want to be really thoughtful before you just start reaching out. So the wording and approach you choose here is actually very key to the process. And that's what we're going to talk about next. What do you actually say in a connection invitation? I get asked this all the time. There's going to be a secret formula, or I Googled and I looked up some connection formulas on the web and I'm trying them out. And sometimes those work. A lot of times they don't because they've been used by a bazillion other people. So what you want to do is think about yourself. You kind of want to match your personality to the connection invitation that you send. You want it to resonate with the person on the receiving end, and you also want it to sound like you. So it really all depends on the types of people you are reaching out to, what you're going to send in that connection invitation. If you're simply trying to build your network fast, and if you're watching this, that's probably why you're watching this, you want to focus on adding people who are the most likely to say yes and accept your connection invitation. So go back to what we just talked about and think about who you should send to first. To get them to accept, your message needs to be obviously beneficial to them and to you. So they need to look at your connection invitation and say, yep, I understand exactly why he or she is reaching out to me, and it's either a yes or a no. So first of all, let me be clear that you should rarely send a connection invitation without a personalized message. So LinkedIn will let you send a connection invitation and you don't have to add anything personalized to it. I would not use that option very often unless that person has come across you elsewhere. So for example, if you were just exchanging comments on a LinkedIn post or you were in touch via email, you could send a connection invitation without personalizing it. But as a general rule, it's best to send a connection invitation message that's personalized to the recipient. Personalized, okay? So it's not mass blasted. You're not using the same template for everyone. It needs to feel personalized to the person. So what does this LinkedIn connection message look like? I'm going to share 3 different examples and approaches based on like a warmer audience than like a cold prospecting audience, because we're trying to build it fast. Remember, fast. 200 connections, fast. So number 1 is the shared community. So this is what I was just describing about reaching out to people in the Digital Course Academy. For me, this is a connection invitation I use. I'm going to show you an example in going through Seth Godin's Alt MBA program. I'm going to put that up on the screen. Because I sent it while we were going through the program together, most people accepted. So you can kind of see I open it with just hi, first name. You can't see that on the screen because I didn't have enough characters. But just a howdy on LinkedIn to say I'm excited about continuing the Alt MBA 6 journey with you over the next 24 days. If I can be of help in any way, don't hesitate to ask. Okay, so it's very light. It's very airy. It feels like, okay, you're just kind of checking in on me to see how I'm doing. You want to get connected. And then you see that very last sentence where I say, how do you feel about P3? And if you are not part of the Alt MBA community, you will know what P3 is. So basically, I timed this message to go out 24 days. It's like, okay, we are into the program about 6 days. We had 24 more to go. And we were all working on P3, which was project 3. So only somebody in Alt MBA would know that. And I had a very high acceptance rate to this. I would say about 90% of people that I sent this to accepted. Number one, because they are B2B professionals, most of them are business owners, so people in the B2B space. And number two, the connection invitation was spot on and the timing. So sending it in accordance with the timing of the program, it made a huge difference. I didn't send it after the program. I sent it during the program while we were going through the experience together. Okay, so notice that I'm referencing that common experience we're sharing. I'm not selling anything, and I merely want to connect. That is critical when you are just trying to get people to connect with you and you're trying to build a network fast. And on a side note, as a result of this outreach, this message that I sent right here, I got connected with a fellow team member who years later reached out with an intro that led me to a project that almost topped 100K for me, which was a lot for my business at the time. And I hadn't tried to sell anything. I was literally just trying to connect with people, be a resource, be helpful, and grow my network. Okay, so that's number one, is the shared community. So if you're in a community, this is a really good one to use, and it's really simple to tailor to your community. All right, number two is the events follow-up. So most of us are attending online events these days. We're going to live streams, we're going to shows, we're going to events, we're hearing people speak. So whenever I attend a live event, or I watch the replay from an industry event, I always reach out to the presenters or people who I noticed were really active in the comment section, and they seem to share a common interest or perspective. So if there's some similarity there and there's a reason for me to reach out and connect, I will. And these connection requests tend to get a higher acceptance rate because of timing. Okay, I talked about timing earlier. I'll talk about timing again. When they are timed well, they perform exponentially well. Okay, so if you wait too long, if you send, a week or two after the event, it's not going to be as time sensitive as if you send it during the event or just after it ends. Okay, so sometimes I'll even send the LinkedIn connection invitation while somebody is giving a presentation, and this shows them that I'm actually watching live and I'm paying attention to what they're talking about. So this one I'm going to show you. I sent this one to Amy Landino during StreamYard's recent live stream summit, and she accepted right away. It was so cool. I was like, right after she hopped off stage, I'm like, wow, she actually accepted my request. Why? Because I said, I'm watching your live presentation right now, and I love this analogy. And I referenced something that she said in her presentation, and lots to learn. Okay, so see, I referenced one thing that she said. I showed that that's an area of growth for me, and I want to follow her and keep up on her work. All right, so you see, it's really simple. But because of the timing and because I personalized it, it got accepted. All right. So if you're on the receiving end of that connection, would you accept? Of course you would. Who wouldn't? It's hard not to accept an invitation from a fan who's obviously paying attention to your work. And that's really critical to the live event strategy. So if you want to grow fast, check out live events that are in your space. Look for who's paying attention and commenting, who's engaging, because those people are more likely to accept. And also send connection invitations to those presenters or moderators or, panelists. Reach out to them. They're a great resource for you. Okay. And the third one we are going to talk about is we're in the same space. So if there's someone you admire or that's pretty active on LinkedIn or other social channels, It's an easy opportunity for you to reach out to them, mentioning something they recently discussed publicly. So looking for a LinkedIn post, maybe they did a webinar, maybe you've noticed that they've been talking about something in their email newsletters, something that shows that you're paying attention. That's key. Paying attention, and you're stroking their ego just a little bit. So I'm actually going to show you an example I received from someone else who attended one of my webinars and would be a great resource for me to collaborate with or refer business to. So here's what she said. Great webinar today, Mindy. I learned a lot. Nice to meet you. As a fellow blogger for our mutual friend, I'm glad to have another B2B person on the team. Let's link up here, shall we? Jane Smith. All right. So you can see that plays to my ego. It also shows that we're in the same space. It shows that we may be able to contribute to each other's businesses. And obviously, I want to connect. Okay, so it's a light touch LinkedIn connection request that referenced something I did and also showed that we run in similar professional circles. And who doesn't love coming across someone else in the same space? You never know where new business opportunities are going to come from. Okay, so there you have it. Who you should connect with to grow your network fast. A few examples of what to say to get their attention and encourage them to accept your invitation. But then what happens after they accept? This is where people get a little stumped, like, okay, what do I say next? I don't know. This is something we're going to discuss in more detail in an upcoming video. But here's a quick tip. Many of these connection invitations may get accepted and you may not feel a need to follow up. Like there is no immediate follow-up necessary. If the other person accepts, but they don't respond and you don't feel compelled to say anything right away, don't. There's no you don't have to create an awkward thank you message to send to them. You can always reach back out to them later down the line and reference the how you got connected sometime back and why you're reaching out now. It will not feel odd to people, and it's better than that awkward message because you don't know what to say next. Just leave off the awkwardness and move on. It's great that you've gotten connected. If you want to take it in a softer way and move that relationship forward, another idea is to just go look for something that they have posted on LinkedIn or another social channel and just like it or comment. It's kind of a sideways way to engage and say thank you. So sometimes getting connected is enough. All right. So be okay with that. And if the conversation does lead to more of that back and forth messaging exchange, go with it. But keep it natural, keep it light, to the point. LinkedIn messages are not the place to get really wordy, and too much back and forth can feel a little distracting sometimes. So sometimes you have to make a call on whether or not it needs to be moved off to email or somewhere else. If it's appropriate, go ahead, exchange email addresses, boom, you're done. If it feels pretty casual, then you can just keep it on LinkedIn. So just kind of go with it and see what feels right for that relationship and that conversation. Okay, so how are you feeling about growing your LinkedIn network now? It's really not that hard, is it? Especially if you're approaching LinkedIn like a human and you're starting with people or communities you're already familiar with. In those cases, it's much easier to get the connection started. And it doesn't end there, like I said, but that's a topic for another day. So if you're still struggling to figure out how to approach your network growth, that's okay. Post a question below because it helps everyone else to see what you're struggling with. They may have the same question, or shoot me a direct message to discuss. And if you want to go deeper with optimizing your LinkedIn profile before you start growing your network, I highly recommend it. So you may want to just hop on this strategy and start trying connection invitations with a community, but check your LinkedIn profile first, please, and make sure that it looks good, because if it doesn't look good or appealing to people, they are not going to accept the connection invitation. So I actually made a free resource called How to Reboot Your LinkedIn Profile to Grow Your Online Business. It's a 3-part video training that you can check out at that link that's scrolling across the screen, mindyrosser.com/LinkedIn Reboot. You can watch it all in one shot, and you can optimize the most important parts of your section, of your headline, your about section, and your experience sections. And that will help you get on the right path to growing your network faster. And next week, I'm really excited. We are going to talk about how to choose the perfect opener for your LinkedIn profile to help you build your network faster. So this is kind of a follow-up to this Mondays with Mindy here, where we're going to talk about really optimizing your LinkedIn profile. So if you want to get a jump start, check out the free training. We'll build on that in this next live, and I will see you next week. Have a good one. Mahalo. Bye.